Welcome back, everybody. The cover of this week's Time magazine is a fascinating profile on the NFL and its embattled commissioner, Roger Goodell. The league has a legion of lawyers who are handling a legion of different lawsuits, not to mention the concussion crisis, the bounty scandal, replacement ref fiasco, 4 suicides that have taken place from former or current players over the last 8 months. They're really dealing with a lot, and in the middle of all of this, Roger Goodell is trying to hold all the pieces together.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating look at a man who is trying to manage, one of the country's most beloved sports and institutions at a moment of its maximum crisis, probably its biggest crisis since Teddy Roosevelt told the college football, clean up your game or I'm going to ban it. And so it's just looking at the way that he's struggling to acknowledge and address the fact that concussions and traumatic brain injury lead to degenerative dementia, but also preserve the spirit of the game. Because on the other side, he's addressing a lot of critics who say, you're watering down the sport is brutal. The sport has always been brutal. That's the reason that we love it.
How big of a challenge is this?
First of all, this is huge. And even when you broaden it, remember, before even this, he had to deal with the issue of violence within the sport in terms of also off the field. And that is banning players, suspending players. That was a whole issue as well. As it relates to the concussions, you've had lawsuits. You've had former players who've been suing. You see Mike Ditka out there saying you haven't done enough. It's also been a part of the collective bargaining agreement because the current players pay into the system. And these guys have been saying, why should I be paying for these old guys? And they're saying, we made it possible for you to get the big money today. So he's had a very difficult task.
So what does he suggest that we can do? Is there any changes that we can make as of now?
Well, he's implemented a couple of rule changes. I think one of the most fascinating aspects is that he's proposing, or he's contemplating, publicizing a rule change that actually involves getting rid of the kickoff, that changing after the team scores, the winning team, the scoring team would be put on the 30-yard line with a 4th down and 15-yard to go scenario. So they have a choice about whether or not they go for it and try to retain possession or they punt. And because an overwhelming majority of concussions that are caused on the football field are during kickoffs, because it's really the only scenario where 11 players are running at 11 players at full speed.
Makes sense. The profile is fascinating. And it is the cover story of Time magazine. It's the cover story called The Enforcer. Thanks. Appreciate that update. All right.